By what name are you known?
There are some who call me Tim.
Welcome to another episode of Timmy Talks, the channel where we talk old school magic. And today I have a 7-point Singleton final match for you, and I'm quite excited because I haven't done 7-point Singleton in a while, but it's still very much alive. And if you'd like to join the 7-point Singleton train, there is a link in the description below where you can find them on Facebook, and it's completely free to join. And they have, I believe, still a monthly tournament every month. So you can just step in and you can enjoy and you can kind of experiment. It's a really nice and open community. And today we're going to look at a final match. So two very good decks. And it's going to be a white and blue control deck that's going to take on a mono black deck. And a white and blue deck is piloted by Baptiste. And the mono black deck is piloted by Bas. So it's Baptiste versus Bas, both double Bs here in the finals. Now, before I continue with the deck tech and a little bit of information about 7-point Singleton to refresh your memory, I would first like to point out that you can also go straight to the game. So if you want to go straight to the action, no problem at all. What you can do is check the description below. There you will find a timestamp that reads MTG Games. Click on there and that will take you straight to the games. And here I would like to just quickly take a look at the 7-point Singleton, because the way this works is it's a Singleton format, meaning you can only play with one of each card except for the basic lands, right? That's pretty straightforward. But on top of that, there's also a point system to create more diversity. And here you can see the 7-point Singleton points list as it is as of today, I believe. I think this list is still very relevant. So you can only spend 7 points in total. So you can already see it's impossible to play with Soul Ring and Ancestral Recall in the same deck, because that's going to cost you 8 points. So you're always kind of looking at how am I going to spend my points? What's the best way to spend the points? And this list can also change over time. So like I said, if you're interested in this format, take a look on their Facebook page, man. Great community. You can join for free. You can join tournaments or just have a look around, ask some questions. It's all pretty open-minded in there. And as a matter of fact, it's also very open-minded here on Timmy Talks. If you have any questions about the format, you can also leave a comment below. I am now going to start with the deck tech section of this video, and I'm actually going to start with the deck of Baptiste. Let's take a look at his blue-white control deck. And here we see the blue and white deck of Baptiste, and I think, as we can see, just see a lot of control cards, right? I see Balance, I see Wrath of God, I see a lot of counter spells, right? I see basically all the counter spells that he can play, he is playing, right? Power Sink, Spell Blast, Counter Spell, Mana Drain. I guess he could also play Remove Soul, which could actually be an interesting addition into this. Maybe Baptiste, if you're listening, have you considered at a certain point brewing this deck including Remove Soul? I think Remove Soul, it's only one blue and one to cast. It's pretty good. Looking at the rest of the deck, we see more control elements, right? We see Old Man of the Sea, we see Preacher, we see a Steel Artifact. We don't see a Control Magic, which is interesting, probably because Control Magic costs points, so he made a different decision point-wise. We see Recall, and I think Recall, again, is in a Singleton format really, really good, because you simply only have one of each card. So it's very valuable if you're able to get something back. Another card that's actually really good in Singleton is Argivian Archaeologist. If your opponent doesn't have an answer to the Archaeologist, it's just great to get the cards back, right? And I guess we see the Confetti Chaos Orb. I guess that's a proxy for an actual Chaos Orb. And then we also see Nevinyrral's Disc, which is control. We see Iopile. So I actually see a lot of artifacts that go really well with the Argivian Archaeologist. What I like in this deck, by the way, is to see Wall of Swords. It's just nice to see a format where a deck with a wall in it can reach the finals. And I know Wall of Swords is the best wall. At least let me know if you disagree, but in old school Magic, I think it's the best wall. I mean, you get a 3/5 for 1 white and 3. It's a flyer as well. Those are pretty good stats. So I think actually Wall of Swords is an example how most walls should have been designed, in my opinion. You know, a wall should be cheap to cast, and it should have a lot of toughness, obviously. But, I mean, it's okay to give it a little bit of power. You know, the power, I think 3 power, 4 power, I think you could do that for a wall, because the drawback of a wall, not being able to attack with it, is so big, it's so huge, that, I mean, you really need a big plus a big incentive to actually play with a wall, right? And I think Wall of Swords is kind of there, you know, it's there where you say, okay, I can play a Wall of Swords in my really serious Singleton deck, right? Because when you reach the finals, I guess we can say this is a serious Singleton deck. Personally, I like the not so serious decks, but but you know me, I'm a Timmy, of course. Anyway, this is the deck of Baptiste. A lot of control. Now let's take a look at the deck of his opponent, Bus. And here we see the deck of Bus. So it's mono black and it's got some artifacts in there, of course, but I like it, man. I like when it's a monocolored deck, it just has a lot of character. And here at the top row, we see all the black creatures in the deck. And when looking at that, I see it's kind of a mid-range deck, right? We see a couple of quick creatures. We see Black Knight, Order of the Ebon Hand. I really love Frozen Shade in this. We see Kumbach Witches, which I think is a little bit underplayed because it's a pinger, so it can kill all those really good 1/1s, like the Argivian Archaeologist that we talked about. And it's a 1/3 herself, so it's also a decent blocker, and maybe early on you can, you know, deal some damage with it. So I think it's a pretty solid card. I'm really happy to see Frozen Shade in this deck. By the way, 1 black and 2 to cast for an 0/1 creature, and for 1 black you can give it +1/+1. So it really feels at home in this mono black deck. I don't think it's really good, but a late game it can be a bomb, right? Because you've got this huge creature to swing in with, and if your opponent doesn't have an answer, it or has to chump block or takes a lot of damage, and both options are not great, right? So it can be really good. Talking about like pumping a creature, look at Carrion Ants. For 1 colorless, you can give it +1/+1. Also, kind of the same idea as Frozen Shade. So those 2 creatures, they have potential in the late game. And early game, they can sometimes be a little bit annoying, right? Because you don't want to keep mana open for them, but you kind of have to if you want to use them. But definitely late game, and I guess late mid game, they can be really, really handy. I also like the inclusion here of Guardian Beast. So Guardian Beast, of course, a 2/4 creature from the Arabian Nights expansion, and this card is just really good. As long as it's untapped, all your artifacts are indestructible, right? So that's insane. So if you've got Guardian Beast and Chaos Orb together, you can use your Chaos Orb, you can flip it, and then of course it destroys itself, right? But because of Guardian Beast, it stays on the battlefield. It does tap because you've got to pay the cost and you've got to tap it, and then you can flip it and it destroys itself. So the destroying doesn't happen anymore, but the tapping does. So it comes back on the battlefield tap, but still it's a great combo because next turn you can flip it again and you can flip it again. So it's really, it's kind of dangerous. And the same scenario can be set for Rocket Launcher. Rocket Launcher and Guardian Beast is really a deadly combo. So I think if you're Baptiste, you want to make sure that as soon as you see the Guardian Beast, you find a way to get rid of it. Like whatever you do, you want to get rid of it. Looking at the rest of the deck, we see some bigger beefy creatures, right? Sengir Vampire, we see a Nightmare, we see, of course, Juzam Jin, we see Triskelion, so there are some big beef boys here as well. Talking about Triskelion, that of course works really well with Tanz's Coffin. That's a trick where you can just put the Triskelion in the coffin, then when you untap the coffin, Triskelion comes back on the battlefield and has again that enter the battlefield trigger effect. So that means it gets 3 counters again. So if it already has 3 counters on there, you can just add 3 more counters. So now it's all of a sudden a 7/7. Like that can get out of hand really quickly. So again, it's something for, you know, Baptiste to worry about. And then there's a card I just want to highlight because you just don't see it often, and I always love to see cards you don't see often, and that card is Artifact Possession. It's 1 black and 2. It's from the Antiquities expansion, and it reads, Artifact Possession does 2 damage to target artifact's controller each time target artifact is tapped or its activation cost is paid. It has no effect if cast on a continuous artifact. It doesn't destroy the artifact like disenchant or shatter or crumble, basically what you want it to do. No. It's going to do it really difficult. It's going to kind of do a wanderlust effect on your artifact. So I love that about the old school kind of way. They're like, okay, no, this is black. It shouldn't be easy to deal with artifacts. It has to be hard to deal with artifacts. And black is the color of pain. So this is what we're going to do. I really like that. I think overall, the deck looks really solid. Because it's mono, it's probably going to be very consistent as well. And what I see in the deck are just all of these little like synergies that when they fall right, when it works the right way, it means a big problem for for Baptiste. So, Baptiste will have to kind of take away those little gears in the machine of Boss. And then I think if Baptiste can do that, I think he can definitely win. But I also think Boss can win. I know it's the boring answer, but I cannot really make a prediction about this matchup. Both decks look so strong. Both decks, have different strengths because they play with different colors. I just think it's going to be a really interesting match. Let me know in the comments below, who do you think is going to win? And I guess now it's time to go to game number 1. Let's go to the match. Best of 5 Singleton Finals. Game number 1 of the Singleton Finals, best of 5, has started. We see Baptiste is on the play here, starting with one of those sack lands, the white one. So it comes into play tap. Now he's got it untapped. He can tap and sack it for 2 white or just tap it for 1 white. He's also played a basic island and passed the turn back to Boss, playing his second swamp here. Tapping both. Are we going to see, a him to Turek? Very strong card. That means that Baptiste now has to discard 2 cards at random. That's what makes this card even better. Like already 2 card discard for 1 card is great, but that at random effect. So we see him bin here 2 basic planes. So that's not too bad actually. And there we see Baptiste now passing the turn, unable to play out any lands after that discard. And this is a great follow-up card here by Boss, the Hypnotic Spectre. There we see an Aeopile, so there is an answer. And of course, Baptiste could have chosen to sack his Fallen Empire land to activate the Aeopile straight away, but he doesn't want to lose any more land because he's really low on land already. There we see an attack, and he's losing his Jalun Tome, his little book. So that one's gone. Not that big of a deal, I think, if you're Baptiste. And let's see what Boss is going to do here. Oh, Mind Twist. Oh, man, I think Boss has got this first game. I mean, this is such a deadly start. And look at that. Azure Drake losing a mana drain there, I think, and a Wall of Swords. He's probably going to use the Aeopile exactly on the Hypnotic Spectre and passing turn here. This is such a killer. I mean, what a good start for Boss. He can also attack with the Mishra's Factory if he has nothing better to do, but it looks like he's got something better to do. Sengir Vampire, 4/4 flyer. And there we see a Diamond Valley, not the land that Baptiste is looking for at this stage. Attacking for 4, so he's going to drop to 14. And let's see what else he's going to do, playing a Maze of If. I'm expecting him to play out something, or else he would have probably attacked with his Mishra's Factory as well. Tapping 4 black here for an Icy Manipulator, so he's probably going to tap down one of the lands. I guess he's going to do the white one, because white gives Baptiste access to, Disenchant and Swords to Plowshare. So those are 2 cards that can kind of get Baptiste back into the game, especially the Swords, of course. I'm expecting an attack here, perhaps even for 6. Yeah, animating it, swinging in for 6. It's going to drop down to 8. Probably just going to pass. Okay, untapping something. Does he want to play out something? I think, okay, playing out a Disrupting Scepter. And this is good magic here. And, there we see a Psionic Blast. At least Baptiste can do something back here, destroying the Sengir Vampire, but he has to take 2 damage. Going to drop to 6. And remember, Boss also has that Disrupting Scepter that he can now use to take out that last card there in the hand of Baptiste. I'm expecting him to do so, because what he can do is he can again animate the factory, untap it after damage is dealt with the Maze of If, use that 1 mana to activate his Icy Manipulator. It does look like Boss is a little bit in the tank here. Maybe he has another option. I believe he's got 2 cards in hand. That's that a white die there that has 2 on it, so the white dice. So I think he's got 2 cards in hand. What is he going to do? I mean, it must be tempting to just, attack for 2, untap, use the Scepter as well, and then tap his White Source. Okay, so he's using the Scepter first, so he's going to lose the Triskelion. Now he's going to attack for 2, then he untaps the Factory and passes turn. I'm expecting him exactly using the Icy now to tap down the White Source, pass turn. Baptiste on 4. He needs 2 more turns, and then it's all over. And I guess you kind of want to do exactly the same when you're Boss, right? Exactly, using the Scepter. So there we see him lose his Divine Offering. And here you can see how important it is for Boss to kind of keep tapping down that White Source. And here we see him winning that game number 1. There was just too many discard. They're just, if that's the thing, when you play with a lot of counter magic, and I'm sharing this with you from experience, you need that little opener. You need that moment where you can go to 2 blue, where you can kind of have that upper hand, and then you can counter away the mind twist, you can counter away the threats, and it's all good. But that moment just never came for Baptiste here. So both players are going to shuffle up, and we're going to catch back up with them in game number 2. Game number 3, here we go. We're still in the finals. Remember, it's a best of 5. There we see a mulligan by Bus here, putting a card on the bottom. He is on the play after losing that second game, playing a basic Swamp Pass turn, and Baptiste playing a basic Island. There we see Demonic Tutor by Bus. That is pretty good. Another card Baptiste could have played, Force Spike. It's not a counterspell, quite nice. I recently had a game with Force Spike in it, and it was very impressive. Anyway, there we see Demonic Tutor. I wonder what Bus is going to tutor for. It's so hard to say. I mean, maybe he just wants to tutor for an Hypnotic. Hypnotic Spectre next turn can be a huge problem. Again, I mean, it so depends on his hand. Usually when people have got like power in their deck, you would say, I was going to look up an Ancestral Recall. But of course, he's playing mono black. So maybe, he's taking just one card that he needs to kind of complete a combo in his hand. It so depends what's in his hand. It's almost impossible to tell really what Bus is going to take. Looks like he's made his decision. And shuffling up. I mean, it might as well be a land. If he's low on land, it might as well be a land. It can be that simple. There's always a little, I wouldn't say risk, but when you play Demonic Tutor this early, you won't have the Demonic Tutor later in the game to possibly respond to a threat of your opponent. Okay, there we see Bus, playing an Underworld Dreams here. So that's an enchantment from Legends, and it means that Baptiste is going to take a damage every time he draws a card. So he's taken First Blood already. Okay, and there we see the Disrupting Scepter. So far we've seen the Disrupting Scepter in every single game. At the game number 1, Bus was playing one. In game number 2 and 3, Baptiste is the one who plays the Scepter. And remember, Bus is playing with black, so it's hard for him to get rid of artifacts. That's, of course, much easier for Baptiste with counter magic and, of course, access to white, having Divine Offering and Disenchant. There we see a Mishra's Factory, by the way, from Bus here tapping. Is he going to tap 4? I think if you're Bus, what you want to do now is just put a lot of pressure on the board. There we see a Guardian Beast. And now Baptiste is going to take another damage from the Underworld Dreams, drops to 18. So next turn, Bus can swing in for 4 if Baptiste is unable to play a blocker. And this is hard for Baptiste. I mean, are you going to use your Disrupting Scepter and you've got to invest 3 mana? Or are you going to play out, for example, a Wall of Swords that is going to protect you from any more loss? So it looks like he's not going to do either. He's passing turn, keeping counter magic up. So if you're Bus now, do you really want to animate your Mishra's Factory? Because there's a risk of running into a possible Divine Offering or Disenchant. Or don't you mind, actually? Okay, he's tapping 4. He's got better options here. Thomas's Coffin. In this case, I don't expect him to attack with the Guardian Beast. You want to keep your Guardian Beast untapped because then it still protects your artifacts. As soon as Guardian Beast becomes tapped, the artifacts are vulnerable again. So they're only indestructible as long as Guardian Beast remains untapped. So he's passed the turn here to Baptiste. So is he going to use that Disrupting Scepter? He's going to play out another island, so 5 mana. 6 cards in hand, it seems. Tapping 3, using the Scepter. It's really nice, by the way, that both of these players are using a separate dice to show the amount of cards in hand. That is really nice. It's something that I try to do as well when I can remind myself of doing it, because I tend to forget. But it's really nice because you're playing online, so it's hard to kind of see how many cards are in somebody's hand. So Disrupting Scepter activation, Bus is really in the tank. You're trying to choose what card to discard from his hand. At least Disrupting Scepter gives you a choice. That's something. And Bus is discarding a basic Swamp. And the fact that it took him so long maybe shows that he's got 2 5-drops in hand. That could be the case, so that he really wants to keep that one Swamp so that he's guaranteed of, for example, playing out a Sengir Vampire. Okay, playing a Chaos Orb. I'm kind of expecting him to flip here. Oh, and he's got Guardian Beast. Okay, that took way too long for me to realize. Oh man, if you're Baptiste, this is so bad. Remember, because of the Guardian Beast, the Chaos Orb doesn't get destroyed after activation, so it stays in the game. It does become tapped. Does that mean that boss can now flip a Chaos Orb every single turn? Oh man. Baptiste needs to find an answer to get rid of that Guardian Beast. He needs a sword, a Psionic Blast, anything. A Chaos Orb of his own, his Chaos Confetti Proxy. He needs something to get rid of this Guardian Beast, or else this game is going to be over very, very quickly for Baptiste. Remember, it's still a best of 5, so he can still win it, but man, this is bad news for Baptiste. This is nightmare scenario. What can he do here? Playing out a Diamond Valley. He is playing Diamond Valley Preacher, by the way, something I forgot to mention in the deck, which is a really nice combination. And there we see him playing a Ghost Ship. So he's just doing this to keep Boss busy, you know, to buy him some time to find answers. Because, of course, Boss is now going to flip on the Ghost Ship. In response, Baptiste is going to eat it with the Diamond Valley, probably gaining 4 life. The question is, if you're Boss, do you want that? So he's first going to flip it. Interestingly enough, Boss doesn't have to say what he's going to target. So I guess Baptiste cannot eat it because then Boss is simply going to choose a new target. And that's exactly what's going to happen, right? So unfortunately for Baptiste, he cannot use the Diamond Valley on the Ghost Ship. So he just has to see it die. And interestingly enough, Boss is putting the Chaos Orb into the graveyard? But it should come back, right? Am I missing something here? He's got the Guardian Beast. To my understanding, the Chaos Orb should just go back onto the battlefield. Exactly. Okay, there's it back. I thought, hey, did I miss something? It's still there. As long as the Guardian Beast remains untapped, it's not going to be destroyed. I mean, if you're Baptiste, you need to get rid of it. He's probably going to get rid of... Is he going to do the Diamond Valley? Or is he just going to go for one of the 2 colors of land? You know, he could also say, you know what, from this point forward, I'm just going to get rid of the white sources, because the white sources is what actually going to give Baptiste the option. Oh, he's going to get rid of the blue. This kind of surprises me. I think if I would have been Boss, I would have chosen to get rid of the white, because white gives access to swords, and swords is a solution. On the other hand, blue gives access to Psyblast, so it doesn't matter. And perhaps Boss is thinking maybe Baptiste has a Control Magic, and he could get the Control Magic on my Guardian Beast. That could be a reason as well. And we see Boss here drawing a card for turn, 4 cards in hand. I think he just has to be patient now. Oh, discarding the Oubliette because of the Jalum Tome, I guess. Flipping right now. And yeah, destroying Tolaria, so another blue source from Baptiste. Baptiste just drawing and pass. When you're Baptiste, you know the game's pretty much over, but you want to play according to your outs. This is the final. It's not a timed match. So you just think, you know, I can at least draw a few cards that can save me from this horrible situation. There we see a Spell Blast on the Carrion Ants. And again, we see a flip here. And I'm not quite sure what happened there. Chaos Orb seems to be untapped. Was there a misflip or something? Or was there a hit on that basic island? I kind of missed that. But anyway, doesn't matter much for the circumstances here in this match. It's still Baptiste very much with his back against the wall. There we see Boss unfortunately having to discard his artifact possession. And there we see a flip. And we see Baptiste losing another island here. And of course, Boss had to discard that because of his Jalum Tome activation. And there's an attack by the Mishra's Factory. So that's 2 damage. He's going to drop to 6 here. Because he also takes the damage from the Underworld Dreams. That Underworld Dreams has been doing a lot of work, by the way. I'm expecting Baptiste here now to destroy the last basic island. Sorry, Boss to destroy the last basic island of Baptiste. First he's using his Jalum Tome again. Having to decide what he's going to put into the graveyard. Putting a Greed in the graveyard. And he's going to flip here. It's really good for your flipping skills, this combo. Looks like Baptiste is looking something up. Anyway, Bus is going to flip. Another hit. Another island gone. Another attack here. Is Baptiste going to use anything against the factory? Actually, he can't because it's indestructible because of the Guardian Beast. Okay, there we do see a disenchant on, of course, the enchantment, the Underworld Dream. So that at least it's going to buy Baptiste a little bit of extra time. I mean, he's hanging in there. He's trying. And he probably knows as well that it's pretty much over. Even at this point, if he draws into something to destroy the Guardian Beast, I mean, he's so behind already. It's almost impossible for him to get back. And Boss here using the Jalum Tome again. Drawing a card, now still having to discard. What is he going to discard? He's probably going to attack with the factory as well. Exactly, attacking for 2. Going to put Baptiste. Okay, there we see a Divine Offering. I wonder if this works because of that Guardian Beast. Let me know in the comments below. Is this actually a workable play? Oh, it doesn't protect creatures, of course. Sorry, yeah. So he can play it on the Mishra's Factory. My bad. And there we see Baptiste playing a Jalum Tome. So at least Baptiste is able to stretch it a little bit. And we see Bus not using... Okay, I guess he's going to use his Chaos Orb now, flipping on the Jalum Tome. And he's also playing a Mind Twist to make matters even worse. Look at that, a Chaos Orb in hand. That would have been interesting. Could have played, of course, the Chaos Orb and then flip on the Guardian Beast. But because of that Mind Twist, doesn't have the option to do that anymore. This must be so frustrating for Baptiste. And tapping 5. Are we going to see a Sengir? Oh, tapping 6. We're going to see a Triskelion, a 4/4. Attacking for 2 here. He's going to go to 2 and then kill him, of course, with the counters of the Trike. Wow. Okay, so that is a victory from Bus here. So that means it's 1-2. So next game could be the decider if Bus manages to win it. So let's quickly go to game number 4. Game number 4 of this best of 5 Singleton Finals, 1 against 2. Baptiste on the play, starting with a basic plane, Bus starting with a basic swamp and a pass turn. What an exciting couple of games they have been. And I mean, it's still everybody's game. There's a him. Okay, scratch that. Bus is in the advantage. He's in the driver's seat. It's so annoying. It's so annoying. I mean, you know, Baptiste had this issue in game 1 as well, an early hint to Turek to deal with. And remember, it's a random discard. So there we see him lose a Recall and a Triskelion. 2 cards that can be super valuable in the late game, but they're gone now, especially that Recall. Wow. There we see an Argivian Archaeologist. Okay, at least he can get his Trike back. If it survives long enough, there we see a Mishra's Factory. And if Bus cannot do anything, then that would be kind of ideal here for Baptiste. And what does he want to do? Why is he tapping it? I'm not quite sure. Okay, he's untapping it again. To my knowledge, it still has Summoning Sickness. And there we see him tapping 3. There is a Royal Assassin. Oh, that is so annoying when you're Baptiste. You want to get the Trike back, but you don't want your Archaeologist to die. What can you do? Doesn't have any blue sources, by the way. Finding another white source here for Baptiste. Remember, if Bus wins this, he's won this final. He's won the best of 5 because he's already 2 games up. So Bus here finding an AO pile. Okay, another answer for the Argivian Archaeologist. And now I guess if you're Bus, Baptiste, you just want to use the Archaeologist. Although you can wait for him to activate the AO pile and then in response use the Archaeologist. There we see a City of Brass by Baptiste. So at least he's got blue mana now. And look at Bus's mana base. He's stuck on 2 lands here. Wow. That kind of opens up possibilities here for Baptiste, you know. It's going to buy him the time that he needs. So he's going to use the AO pile on the Archaeologist. In response, he's going to use it to get back to Trike. But at least the Archaeologist is gone. So this is not really a bad exchange for Baptiste. He slowly wants to work towards having 6 lands. Ooh, interesting. Neverneral's Disc. He can use the disc to get rid of that Royal Assassin, or he can try to kind of wait until he's got 6 lands, then he can play that Triskelion and then kill the Royal Assassin. I think that's probably a better option, because if you're Baptiste, why would you now choose to use your Neverneral's Disc? There's an attack for 3. There's a maze, of course, on the factory. 1 damage, that means for Baptiste, it's going to drop to 18. No worries there. And it's finding another land. So he's got 5 lands now, because that Maze of Ith, of course, cannot produce any mana. So he needs 1 more land, then he can play out his Triskelion. And Boss is still not finding any lands. Very frustrating, having to discard his Howl from Beyond. And there finds land number 6, mana producing land, that is, with a Tolaria. And now he's able to play out his Triskelion, and I wonder if he's already going to shoot the Royal in the end step of Bus here. At least Bus has found another land, so that's something. Is 3 mana enough, though, to actually go and do something? Still has 7 in hand, tapping 2 black. Are we going to see a Black Knight? No, okay, that's actually pretty useful. A Sinkhole here on the Maze of Ith. And he's going to kill the Royal, and he's going to attack. Remember, the Trike is now a 3/3 after losing that 1 counter. So we see Boss dropping to 17, actually taking the first damage in the game. And there we see a Preacher, the card from the dark, and you can tap the Preacher, and then your opponent has to give one of his creatures to you. At least as the opponent you can choose. And Preacher is really good with Diamond Valley. That's also in this deck. Oh, I'm kind of happy to see this Artifact Possession. Oh, so sweet. So the way it works, it's a card from the Antiquities. I discussed it in the deck tag. Every time the artifact that it enchants, every time that artifact gets tapped or gets activated, you actually take 2 damage. And I wonder on what artifact he's played it. Probably on the Triskelion. That would make more sense. So every time he attacks now with the Triskelion, it means that Baptiste is going to deal 2 damage to himself because of that enchant creature there from the Antiquities. Very, very cool. I mean, it's still good for him to attack. Exactly. So he's going to deal 4 and he's going to take 2 from that Artifact Possession. So we see Boss here who's dropping to 13, but also Baptiste is dropping to 15. And there we see a Mind Twist. Are we going to see a counter spell, though? We do see a Psionic Blast, so 4 more damage for Boss, so he's going to drop to 9. Baptiste's going to drop to 13. And still 6 cards in hand for Boss. That's quite a lot, but what he needs really is mana here. And then another attack. Boss is dropping to 11. And Baptiste is, Boss is dropping to 5. Baptiste is on 11, of course. I'm mixing things up here. There we see a Brain Geyser to make matters even worse. That's a great comeback from that Mind Twist earlier. And playing a basic island and passing turn here. There we see a Swamp. Can he do something now with 4 mana? It looks like he was kind of excited there, going for his hand, but he's a little bit into tank here. He's so far behind already. Remember, he's on 5. Baptiste can still take those 2 counters off to deal 2 more points of damage. So next turn, maybe he can already win it. And also the Preacher is a problem for Boss. I mean, if he plays a creature, Baptiste is just going to use the Preacher next turn to steal that creature from him. So he's playing an Order of the Ebon Hand. So I'm expecting... Okay, it's got protection from white. So then the question is, does the protection from White Claws work? I don't think so, because Preacher doesn't target. I could be wrong, because what Preacher does is it taps and then it says your opponent has to give one of his creatures to you. So you're actually not targeting the creature. So I think protection from white doesn't work exactly. So he's now going to take the Order of the Ebon Hand. I'm expecting him to attack here and then possibly Boss can animate the factory, tap and pump it to kind of offer a trade here. So it's a 2-2, but he can tap it to pump itself, becoming a 3-3. So they are trading. And that means that now Baptiste can try to kill Boss with his own... Oh, there's a Sarah Angel. I want to say with his own Ebon hand, but there's the Sarah Angel that can probably do the job as well. Actually, they can work together. There's an AO pile to make matters even worse. And is there anything here that Bus can still do? Nope, there's nothing he can do. So that means it's 2-2. Wow, what an exciting finals. A best of 5, 2 against 2. Who is going to win this? Game number 5, 2 against 2. Singleton finals. Insane tension. Who is going to win this? And there we see Bus starting with Ebon's Stronghold and a strip mine from Baptiste. Wow. And there we see Runes of Troycare from Baptiste here. And there we see a Demonic Tutor by Bus. Again, I wonder what he's going to tutor for. It's really hard to tell. What do you think he's going to tutor for? I think if he has another black source in hand, maybe I would just go for Hypnotic Spectre. Also because Baptiste doesn't have a blue source yet to counter. But again, I mean, it so depends what's in his hand. I wonder if he's got like a set strategy. Maybe you can let me know, Bus, in the comments if you want to, like how you make your decision what to tutor for so early on in the game. I mean, on one side, it's really great to have a Demonic Tutor turn 2, you know, especially in a deciding game. I guess it's turn 3, by the way, because of that strip mine situation anyway, with 2 lands into play. On the other hand, it's kind of hard because you've got all those options open. You don't really know what your opponent's going to do yet. Maybe you looked up a Hymn to Turek. Or maybe a Mind Twist for later in the game. Anyway, the Hymn, of course, pretty brutal, taking away 2 cards there, an Air Elemental, and that last one I can't really see, the one under the Air Elemental. We see Baptiste here playing another land. So Runes of Troycare, basic plains, basic island, passing turn to Bus here. Bus playing a Mind Twist, so I guess he looked up a Mind Twist, right? That's probably the best card to go for. Oh, that's so brutal. That is so brutal. Oh, man, if you're Baptiste, you're like, does this have to happen in a deciding game? I mean, of the finals here. And Baptiste playing a Jalem Tome. There's the Order of the Ebon Hand. And Bus is now really, really far ahead after the Hymn to Turek and the Mind Twist. That's such an overkill. We saw Bus doing that in game number 1 as well, actually, that he won quite easily. So does that mean he's going to win this one as well? Look at all those black mana. He can seriously pump up that Order of the Ebon Hand. He can give it +1/+0 for 2 black. And it's a 2/1 by itself. So he can basically deal 5 damage here. I wonder if he's going to do that. No, he chooses to play out. He's got a better option. This is a better option. Plays out a Triskelion. And it's looking so bad for Baptiste here. Using his Jalem Tome, of course, in the end step of Bus probably. Trying to find some kind of answer. Discarding the Azure Drake. And I hope that at least he's got a land to play out and a creature to kind of stop the bleeding a little bit. Looks like he's got some options. 2 cards in hand only, or 3 cards in hand. So I guess the dice is wrong there on 2. He's got 3 cards in hand, not 2. What can he do, really? Probably he doesn't have a basic land, or else he would have played it out already. And when you're low on land, do you really want to sack your Runes of Troycare? Oh, playing a Balance. That's actually a pretty good card. That is like the one card that could get him back from this horrible situation that he's in. He's going to take 3 from the Trike, probably. Going to drop to 15. Exactly, but I mean, for Buzz, he's going to have to discard a lot of cards. He's going to have to exactly put a lot of lands in the bin and, of course, lose all his creatures. This is just a great card for Baptiste. There is the Black Knight. 2/2 first strike protection from white. What can he do here? And playing a Ghost Ship. Okay, so that Ghost Ship is a great blocker for the Black Knight. And all of a sudden, I mean, Baptiste is fully back into the game. Of course, the best answer after being Mind Twisted is just playing a Balance. Tapping 4 here. There's a Nevinyrral's Disc. I wonder now if Baptiste is going to keep 3 blue open to kind of regenerate his ghost ship. Only 1 card in hand, has enough mana as well to regenerate the ghost ship and on end step activate the Jalum Tome to draw a card and discard a card. Tapping 4 here, what are we going to see? There is a Jayemdae Tome. Are we going to see a counterspell here? First using his own Jalum Tome, discarding his Diamond Valley, but not finding a counterspell for that Jayemdae Tome. So now if you're Baptiste, you probably want to try to force Bus to use his Nevinyrral's Disc so that he blows up his own Jayemdae Tome. But that's going to be pretty tough. He can attack for 2, but then he also takes 2 damage. Okay, there we see, remember, the Chaos Confetti is a proxy for a Chaos Orb. They allow proxies in this format. So he can flip it on the Jayemdae Tome. Choosing not to do it yet. Of course, if he flips it, it does mean that he doesn't have enough mana open anymore to also regenerate his ghost ship if Bus wants to activate his Nevinyrral's Disc. So I guess he's going to flip it now. Now he's got 3 blue open. So he's going to activate. And remember, he doesn't have to say what he's going to target with the Chaos Orb. So here we see an activation from the Jayemdae Tome. That makes absolute sense. I think I would have done the same. And now we probably see the flip by Baptiste. I think it's the first flip for him of this match. Is he going to hit it? And that's a hit. Jayemdae Tome is a goner. And let's see what else he can do here. He still doesn't want to swing in, I guess, because if he deals 2, then Bus is simply going to deal 2 back, and then he's on a lower life total, so that's not a good idea exactly. He's just going to pass turn here. Having enough mana open to use the Jalum Tome on end step of Bus's turn. Looks like he wanted to tap. Okay, he's going to tap some black mana here, and he's going to play an Icy Manipulator. Interesting. Are we going to see a counterspell here, or a Jalum Tome activation digging for a counterspell? Baptiste is a little bit in the tank. I think the reason that he's in the tank is he knows that one of the things that Bus can do now is tap one of his blue sources, but in response, of course, Baptiste is going to make a shield. And look at that, Baptiste discarding Wrath of God, not finding a counterspell for that Icy Manipulator. And that means that Bus can now tap down the Ghost Ship on the end step of Baptiste. Attack with the Black... Exactly, that's what he's going to do. Attack probably with the Black Knight. Deal some damage. Of course, Baptiste is still pretty high up. So it's going to drop to 13 here. And let's see, what is he going to do now? Tapping 4. And, okay, playing Carrion Ants. That's a really good card. If you're Baptiste, you really want to counter this. Discarding a Felwar Stone. Untapping here. Ooh, there's a lot of damage incoming if Baptiste cannot find a solution for that Carrion Ants. Really cool to see Carrion Ants here in a final playing such a big role. If you're Baptiste, you really want to get rid of the Carrion Ants. Remember, Carrion Ants pay 1, it gets +1/+1, so that's a potential 5/6. That's a lot of pain. Tapping 4. Okay, so he's finding an Icy Manipulator. He's probably going to tap down the Icy with his Icy. Or not. Or is he thinking about tapping down the Ghost Ship? I mean, he can tap down the Icy, untap, tap down the Ghost Ship, and swing in with the Ants. The question is he going to do that, yes or no? Interesting moment here in the game. We see there Baptiste looks like he's counting the amount of cards he's got in his graveyard. And I guess if you're Baptiste, you're maybe thinking about, do I want to use my Icy Manipulator in response? I don't think you do. I mean, why would you? And okay, playing a Divine Offering on the Icy Manipulator. Interesting. Very interesting. I wonder now if you're boss, if you're just going to blow up the disc. You can attack with 2, deal some damage, blow up the disc, get rid of the Jalum Tome, the Ghost Ship, and the Icy Manipulator, which is not too bad. Obviously, it really depends on what is in Boss's hand. But an Icy is just so annoying to play against. And the Jalum Tome is pretty good. And now Baptiste doesn't have the 3 blue open to regenerate the Ghost Ship. So he's really kind of inviting Boss to activate that disc. And I don't think that Baptiste has any cards in hand anymore, by the way. So there we see an attack. I think, to be honest, that Boss is going to activate. Asking what cards he has in his graveyard, showing the cards. Is he going to block? Like he can, for example, choose to block the ants. He's actually not blocking, he's taking the damage. And there we see him using the Nevernor's disc. And the ants didn't get pumped up, by the way, because Boss preferred to play out another creature. And I think that's the right move, playing a clay statue. And remember, Baptiste only has 1 card in hand. Clay statue, a 3/1 and 2 to regenerate. Pretty good creature. There we see a Kumbach Witches. It's looking really good for Boss here. Can deal 4 damage per turn now. Baptiste there. Okay, this is pretty good for him. This is pretty good. I wonder what Boss is going to do here. He can attack with the Jade Statue. If Baptiste blocks, he can kill it with the Kumbach Witches. That's probably what he wants to do here. I mean, if you're Baptiste, you really don't want to take the damage. If he blocks, Boss will pay 2 to regenerate the creature. Then you probably will tap Kumbach Witches to kill the Trike. In response, Boss can then, of course, kill the clay statue again and again so that it dies. But it looks like he's just taking the damage here, choosing to go to 9 instead. If you're Baptiste, he could have decided to deal 1 damage to the clay statue, forcing Boss to regenerate, and then in his own turn deal 1 more damage again. Attacking with the 4/4, he can still do that, of course. First attacking, Boss on 16. Is he now going to use his counters? I think he is. I mean, he's on 9, right? Or does he have something else to play? Okay, so it looks like he's going to use it. I mean, you don't want to take more damage, right? Okay, so he's going to use it the first time. There we see that regeneration. Then he's going to use it the second time. Boss doesn't have any ways to regenerate again. So that means he's going to take a damage here from the Kumbach Witches. And Boss is also going to take a damage back. So Boss is on 15 and Baptiste is on 8 here. And if you're a Boss, you're not going to attack, of course, because you can always tap your Kumbach Witches to ping for 1. And you want to keep it untapped. Remember, the Witches are actually a 1/3, so it's a pretty beefy creature for just 2 black. So it can block that 2/2 Triskelion. It can actually block it and then tap and ping for 1 and kill it. That could be an option. So Boss has tapped 2 black using the Jalum Tome. Now he's got a discard. Discarding a Sinkhole kind of makes sense. What else is he going to do? Or tapping 2 black. Playing an AO pile. Okay, so he can use the AO pile to kill the Trike. Do you really want to do that? I guess you do. Okay, killing the Trike. The reason I'm asking is that, you know, I mean, you've got your Witches anyway. Attacking here for 1. This is going to put Baptiste on 7. Oh, there we see a Fountain of Youth. liking this, Baptiste, so you can kind of gain some life. Stay on the same life total, basically preventing the damage from the witches. So there's an attack, so now he's going to make a life, so he's going to stay on 7. There's a Will-O-the-Wisp. Not really going to help Bus moving forward here. So Baptiste is still in this. Bus has only got 1 card in hand. Baptiste got 2 cards in hand. And passing turn here. So Bus going to go back to 2 cards in hand. Tapping 6. Oh, Nightmare. Oh, Power Sink. Power Sink. Okay, that is really saving Baptiste here. Oh, man. If that Nightmare could have resolved, it would have been like the end of the game, the end of the match, and Bus would have won the finals here of the 7-point Singleton. But it is not to be. There's that Power Sink from Baptiste, so that means he's still in it. And I guess that Fountain of Youth is kind of making sure he doesn't die too quickly. Oh, very cool. This is so nice. So now next turn, Bus can attack. And he can pump it up, make it really, really big to make matters worse. There we see an enemy dead. Is he going to get back? I mean, a Trike is really tempting as well to get back a Triskelion here. But of course, a Nightmare is really cool as well. Choosing to go for the Nightmare. Style points here for Bus. So Nightmare's power and toughness equal to the amount of Swamp. So it's a 5/5, but it gets actually -0/-1 from the enemy dead. Sorry, -1, -0. So it is a 4/5 actually. So next turn he can swing in with Frozen Shade and with Nightmare to win this. And yep, he's won it. Ho-ho! Congratulations, Bus. I mean, but also kudos to Baptiste, because Baptiste, I thought you were fish bait after that Mind Twist, and the way you came back with that balance, genius, absolute genius. But wow, what a final 2 against 3. Thank you, Baptiste and Bus, for sharing this great match right here on Timmy Talks, the channel where we talk old school Magic. And here we see the winning deck of Bus. Oh man, I really enjoyed the finals. Great to see such a deck do so well. I guess I'm kind of out of Singleton, but it's really nice to see another game here on Timmy Talks. Let me know what you think of 7-point Singleton. If you'd like to see more matches, you know, maybe I can do some more games like this in the future. Again, thank you to Baptiste and Bus for sharing their match right here on Timmy Talks. And I would also like to thank you, the viewer, for watching another video right here. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Please consider becoming a subscriber. And of course, ring that bell. All that helps. Talking about helping the channel out, you can also click on the like button. That really helps. Also leaving a comment and sharing this content on your socials if you like it, of course, if you want to, of course. But all that really helps the channel moving forward. Talking about moving forward, you can also become a patron of Timmy Talks and help the channel financially as well. Help me to grow Timmy Talks further and further. And how can you do that? It's quite simple. There's probably an info card appearing right now. Click on the info card. That will take you straight to the Timmy Talks Patreon page where you can find all the details. And the cool thing is you can join the Timmy Talks Discord. If you become a Patreon, you can join the Timmy Talks tournaments. And you can also get your name on the end scroll. So maybe you'll become famous that way. Who knows? Talking about the end scroll, let's take a look at the amazing, fantastic, wunderbar patrons and channel members of Timmy Talks.
What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises. Early in the morning, put him in the longboat until he's sober. Put him in the longboat until he's sober. Put him in the longboat until he's sober. Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises. Early in the morning, pull out the plug and wet him all over. Pull out the plug and wet him all over. Pull out the plug and wet him all over. Early in the morning, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises, way hey and up she rises. Early in the morning. What shall we do with the drunken sailor? What shall we do with the drunken sailor? Put him in a scout to the hood, 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 put him in a scout to the hood. Early in the morning.
Icketus, ficketus, somber, kazee.